Hello, friends. How are you today? I'm delighted to be here with you on Thanksgiving weekend. This is the chart for the Schumann resonance for November 26th that we're going to talk about. There are some really super interesting patterns in it, and I want to thank someone, Stacy Blu-ray at Blue Star Angel. I got alerted to this pattern from one of her posts, so I just wanted to say thank you to her for that. I thought that was awesome. And sure enough, when I took a look at the post at the Schumann after seeing her post, it was, the red resonance has been extended for hours and hours now, and I checked just before I started recording, and it still is. It's at a flatline high in the qualities of 25 hertz it's been 28, 30 hours now, which is highly unusual. So let's talk about what this means. I've tried to summarize it up here in this image, which includes Little Red Riding Hood. And it was interesting because I was looking for an image of Little Red Riding Hood because the story of her and the wolf came to mind. And I'll explain why that was as we go into it. But I think it's about I think the energies that are present right now are about our consciously seeing something that isn't good for us. And in this environment of an elevated quality in the red, with a low amplitude, we can see what's not good for us without completely freaking out. Because the amplitude is low. And then because our beta brainwaves are so focused, it looks like from the chart, on critical thinking, analysis, and perception of something. It's like we've finally seen the bug, if you will. We've finally seen the hidden influence. Now, when that will come out into broader discussion in our world, I don't know, how that relates timing-wise with the influences that I'm seeing on the chart. But it's interesting because I just did a poem. I will link it below. And the poem was, Does It Matter If the World Burns? And it's actually an inspirational poem. And it's only about 3 minutes. I'll link it below. It's a poem story. So I don't know, sometimes I write poetry. I've been doing it for years. And that just came through me. And in the poem, I talked about this feeling of, being in the darkness, but feeling this sense that there's a light and that there's a lighted home, a safe place available to us. And the darkness in the poem representing there's something to be wary about. And I think that that's what I see here with the elevated red in the Schumann. I drew this by hand just because I tried to get it off of the chart and it just did not look right. But actually the drawing came out pretty good. Okay, so before we get into this, I would ask you, please like the video if you like it. If you haven't subscribed, if you could subscribe to my channel, that would be awesome. It really helps me with the algorithm, and I'm just a hair below 5,000 subscribers, and I would love to make it over 5,000 subscribers. But, I don't know. Sometimes when you get to those major numbers, there's kind of it's like a crab, like back and forth as you get there. So that's where we are. That's where I'm at right now. And what else was I going to say? Oh, if you could share the video, if it resonates with you, that would be super. Right now on social media, I'm really just on Twitter, and I feel like lonely there now. There's still some of us there that actively engage where there's real human beings. But I just feel like I've got to look at that, the social media and stuff as we go into the calendar new year, but really the natural new year, which is in March, April is really the where new beginnings are. So I'm just dreaming now of how do I expand this in terms of, do I go on other social media or not? And the other thing that I've been looking at is from the standpoint, I was recently, because I declined to answer certain questions, as many of you know, I was unfortunately I was taken off of the work that I was doing, and besides that, my YouTube monetization has never gotten back to the peak where it was at the beginning of the summer. And even though I have more subscribers and a lot of views for my size and great engagement, which I really appreciate for you guys, it's very modest. And I've just been thinking about, and then I have people say things like, which I appreciate. I appreciate that people enjoyed these charts, but you may have noticed that I'm not putting my charts with comments on Twitter now. And it is very time consuming, and I'm looking at, where can I work with this, whether it's starting some kind of community or whatever, because I'd love to put up those charts again and stuff, but I need at some point to get compensated in some way. I need to have a balance of, because it takes a lot of time to, as you can imagine, to create all of these things, which I pretty much do from scratch. And so I'm thinking about that. I'm looking at how to expand what I'm doing in that area, and in a way where we can engage, where I don't have to just be, concerned about every little thing that is going on or what I'm saying, because I obviously have to consider that being on YouTube. And there's been a couple of instances in the comments where, I've suggested over and over, could you please redirect your comments to, someone was making comments on a very controversial, politically oriented topic from the, before the election, and I just, and they wouldn't stop. And so I had to block that person because it, puts the whole thing in a space that's not good in terms of being able to, have my channel. And so, then I had my other video, Vax Unvax, which is super. I hope you guys, if you haven't looked at it, consider taking a look at it, because I talk about how to heal this rift in our society from an energetic perspective. And I really appreciate that a lot of you are really careful about how you make your comments, because I love the engagement. We just have to be careful about using certain keywords. And someone used a keyword, multiple keywords, and their post actually went through, which I was amazing. I thought that was amazing, because a lot of times YouTube, a certain percentage of my comments that people make don't show up. They just don't get, I don't even see them. So it's about 20% of the comments people make is what I've calculated over, time that I've been paying attention to that. And some of them are troll comments, like redirects to strange websites and stuff. So some percentage of that is real stuff that should be blocked by YouTube, but some of it is probably just people making extended comments. So that's too bad. But in this one example that I was just telling you about, my video momentarily, sometime after that, was held, and I had to, I just deleted the comment. It was released, but I just deleted the comment anyway, because I just didn't want to deal with, I want people to have the information, and I agree with what the commenter wrote, but I just have to agree in silence. And, using other descriptions. So anyway, I don't know if I'm going to leave this in the video, this discussion, but I don't know. I just kind of felt like maybe I should just share what my thoughts are with you guys. And and then we'll get into the Schumann comments in a second. But the other thing that I wanted to say was that, I held off from making a Schumann video for about 9 days, and I think it was the 9th day I published it over the past 2 weeks. And I wanted to tell you what was going on, which was that I was seeing over and over and over again the energies of that event from 20 years ago involving the towers. And first of all, I've noticed that my videos on that do get, I think, held back from YouTube when I talk about that. So I'm trying to be creative in how I do that. But I also had someone, actually a friend, comment from a lady who lives in Europe, and she said to me, I really don't get it. You keep talking about this, this event, and I just don't see it, maybe because I'm not in the United States. And I just have to not let that bother me, because it was a global event, and I just have this incredibly strong feeling that there are aspects of that, and I did talk about it briefly in my last video, which I've linked below, but from November 25th. But I just have this incredibly strong feeling right now, and I just saw it, like I said, over the last 2 weeks, over and over and over again. The energies of that event are so relevant to what is happening now, and probably even these revelations of the red line that we are seeing today in the chart. I don't know why. So I don't know what the detailed information is that relates. I can think of current events going on and, guess that maybe they might be related to that event 20 years ago somehow. But I just don't know. And in fact, actually, I was listening to a video by the Lion King. He actually just talked about that the eclipses that we're having now, the lunar eclipse and solar eclipse, which is coming on December 4th, that they tie back to, I think he said 2002, and the entry of the United States into Iraq after the Tower event. And he talked about how even Colin Powell now, who is very deeply involved in promoting that, has recently passed before these eclipses, and that was an interesting coincidence. So I guess actually that is a real world energetic that does show that there is a correlation, and I am seeing it in the Schumann before and during the eclipse on November 19th, which is interesting. Again, my comment on that is in the last video from November 25th. So I'm just going to let myself talk about it, and I hope that you guys are cool with that, because that's what I see, and that's what I feel so strongly. And the thing is, sometimes in the Schumann chart, what I find is that I am feeling an energy, or I'm seeing it clairvoyantly or intuitively, and I know it's behind the events. It's like a hidden shadow element behind events, but I can't always prove to you. Although I'm glad I just listened to that recording by Lion King. Actually, let me tell you which one it was. I think he's like a great astrologer, and I love his stuff. It's called 2021 Astrology Eclipse Integration with Coyote Star. I loved her too. And actually, I wanted to, what's amazing? They talked about something I talked about in my last video, which was Coyote Star called it spiritual bypassing. And I thought that was such a great word for it. And in my last video, I basically talked about this concept, and I've talked about it before because I think it's really relevant. But in the last video, I talked about the difference between innocence and denial or naivete, and how the refusal to acknowledge evil in the world, or evil from being done by individuals, or harm in a space of sacred discharge imbued by the violet flame. Okay, so using this energetic technique is a way of acknowledging something that is of the darkness, but transmuting the charge to unconditional love in the moment. So it's not a denial, it's a transmutation, right? In alignment with the highest good, in alignment with divine will. So we can upshift denial into doing something about it, especially if you're a person who prays, who does energy work, who does meditation, because I think a lot of the meditation, I always do energy work during meditation, but when you put stuff outside your field or thoughts outside your field in meditation, it's a similarity. It's just that I chase those down and flame them, because why should I drop those into the world, right? To just float around, when I could also just flame them. Meaning I can energetically transmute them in alignment, right, with the soul that I am. Right? I check in, is it in the highest good first? But back to this idea about innocence versus denial. And what I said in that video in a nutshell, but I had to talk about it. That was awesome. So I just thought it was so great. I just really loved how that went. And that's in the November 25th video. But it's basically that we deny that influence because we don't acknowledge the importance of our own selves. We don't acknowledge the truth of who we are. So, and that's how evil persists and exists, right? That's how it continues on. Because we choose not to see it, but it's a conscious choice, and that conscious choice or unconscious choice is denial. And then it could be outright denial, it could be naivete. There's different flavors of how this works, but because if we were willing to acknowledge how important we are, right? How we're precious, how we're an embodied soul in the physical body, how that's divinity, the preciousness of divinity within us that we should protect, the childlike innocence of our own soul, okay, deserves protecting. She or he deserves his or her dreams to come true, embodied in this human form. Do you think that we get incarnated and dream about these horrible things? I don't think so. That end up happening to people. Okay, it's not right that we get taken off our path and in a space of sacred discharge imbued by the flame, because some people do come in for lessons. Okay, but we don't have to do that. There always seems like there's lessons involved, but we can come in to express our soul purpose, or we can just in the moment consciously choose, this is what I'm going to do now. And why do you get to do that? Because divine law trumps human law, and it trumps alien law. Okay, whatever the stranger's law is, okay, first of all, human law trumps that, and then human law trumps alien law, or the law of the stranger, or whoever the invader is that we don't see, the invisible enemy. Okay, but God's law, divine law, aligning with divine principles, aligning with the soul that you are, invokes that divinity, invokes God's law, invokes divine law within you, and then you can act from that place, from the soul that you are, in alignment with the highest good, in alignment with divine will. And this is a personal process of developing the discernment and the connection, the discernment to understand what that is through you, what that connection is, what is true and what is not true, related to that for you, and the discernment and the ability and the connection, the ability to connect with God within, Most High, the Creator of the universe, with the soul, with the divinity that you are, with the spark of the light of the Creator that is within you. Okay, that flashing light that precedes the creation of the human form within the womb of the woman. That is God's work, God's handiwork. Whew, that was awesome, wasn't it? All right, so did I cover everything? Yeah, I think I did. So stay tuned for, upcoming announcements. And one of the new things that I'm doing is that I'm again offering discounted sessions. I thought that after Thanksgiving, a lot of people have, let's face it, issues come up with family, with friends, and I think that we're seeing this in the chart in general as well. And I thought this might be a great time to offer discounted sessions and crystal fair type sessions where, I have sessions as short as 10 minutes. They're just like little tastes of a session, but we can get a lot of work done in 10 minutes and 20 minutes. Even in 50 minutes, I have discounted rates. And then I also discounted my regular sessions and even my half-day seminars. So if you're interested, I put it out in my newsletter. So if you're on the newsletter, you would have gotten a copy of that. It's posted on my blog from October, so you can see what it looks like if you look at the October posting on my blog. And then I will have to update the posting for, so in the next couple days, probably by Sunday, I'll get it on the blog. Okay, so let's do this. Let's take a look at the Schumann resonance chart for today. So the Schumann resonance is a non-physical energy from 0 to 40 hertz. And you'll see here, there's a reason why I did all of that at the top there, looking at the little fine aspects near 0 hertz. I want to talk to you about that in a second, but between 0 and 40 hertz, this is the same range as human brainwaves. And so for that, but for other reasons also that I explain in my beginner playlist, I use the Schumann resonance chart as a reflection of human consciousness, and then I interpret it both from a scientific aspect, looking at the data behind the chart, and from a spiritual aspect, using my understanding of spiritual principles, my understanding of sacred geometry, and the quantum nature of energy, and looking at, through my clairvoyance, looking at the images in the chart and tying it all together in a little message with some inspiration. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, this is what's going on in the chart. It's interesting because you if you haven't been looking at the chart, I'm going to show you right now what's different. And I just want to let you know that this is where the red resonance quality elevated here at 11 hours on the 25th. But then on the 18th, that's when it spiked. The red resonance quality spiked to 25 hertz. And from here on out, through the making of this video, a couple hours later, however many hours later, it's still at 25, almost in a straight line. And what I want to show you is the changes. Now, here we have the green line here at 20 hertz. Honestly, this has been going on for months, that the green line has been lit up at 20 hertz. And so what I've said in the past was, from my perspective, this is humanity, the green line, green representing humanity, in my view, overall. But we're paying attention because 20 hertz is beta brainwaves. And so let me explain something to you about beta brainwaves, because I did a bunch of additional research on this today before the video because I knew I was going to talk about it. But at 20 hertz here, our brainwaves are about being alert, where we've got high engagement with the world around us and with our own thought process. We're actively figuring something out. Okay, this has been going on since about August, September, October, November. The green line has been very prominent. Okay, now it's really interesting because an excess of beta can also increase stress, beta brainwaves, in one's daily regimen. I'm not sure how the excess would be measured, but an excess can lead to stress and anxiety, is what I found out doing the research. So this is basically not only our waking state, but where we're really crunching through things. And this is mid-beta because Beta starts, say, around 12 to I don't know, high teens is the low beta. And then higher beta goes all the way up to about kind of from high 20s to high 30s. So this is the mid beta that I was talking about in particular, although that high engagement, figuring things out is in general for the beta brainwaves. And then up here, you've got the spiritual brainwaves, gamma. And then down here, which we're going to talk about in a minute, below 4, you have delta, which is kind of a sleep state. I call it the unconscious state. And then between 4 and 8 is your theta. And in my view, this is also the subconscious and dream time, which many of us are able to access even from a waking state when you're doing things like being able to be awake in dreams, lucid, which is also called lucid dreaming. When you meditate, when you achieve 0 point, when you're able to work with your subconscious through various mechanisms, and including energy work, prayer, and meditation, it's my view that we also access this, but that is my personal view. And then from 8 to 12 is our alpha. Okay, so just our waking state before we do the critical thinking, observation of the world around us, brushing your teeth, I don't know. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that because I'm going to talk about brainwaves in a second. Now, I talked about this yesterday, so I'm not going to go into it too much except to add, in addition from yesterday's video, that this is a cross-type shape here at the beginning. And I thought that was interesting because there was another cross-type shape in yesterday's chart from, I think it was the 24th. Now, this is interesting because now you also see the white line here at 12 hertz. And I did talk about this in a recent video from mid-November. So you could go back and look. I did. It was so cool. I analyzed this. This showed up in a big way in April I think it was April of 2020 at the end of the pandemic on the Schumann resonance charts. And in my videos from April of 2020, I explain why I thought that was. But anyway, or the end of the influence of that virus from a Schumann resonance perspective. So at any rate, so it's interesting that to me that this line at 20 continues in November. Now it continues to be lighted up in a very noticeable way. But what's interesting is after we get to about 20 plus hours of the red resonance being at 25 in quality, I'll explain what that means in a second, suddenly we get this image that shows up. And this image is, now I want you to notice where it is, okay? This right here is all below our waking state, okay? Because that's right about here at 8 hertz. I know that because I just know the chart now, so I don't need to look at the side to know that this is about 8 hertz right here and that this is 12 hertz. But so what I'm saying is that right about here, this is deeply in the unconscious, and this is in the subconscious. Okay, so most of this figure, which looks like a being to me, is in the subconscious or unconscious, but now you see that it lights up here. A main part of this image lights up here at the alpha brainwaves, 8 hertz, and then continuing into 8 hertz with a lot of red. Okay, so a lot of grumbling, if you will, a lot of grumbling as we see this. Okay, it's come into our alpha state consciousness, our waking consciousness. And it looks to me like we don't feel too good about it when it happens because we get all this red here. Okay, and red is, in my view, red is dense human emotions, the shadow side of our own personality, the shadow side of life around us that we may be in denial about, or we may choose to be in naivete about. Oh, it's really not like that. Sorry. I'm sorry, but I just, I'm not sorry about it, okay? Fine. I'm not sorry. I feel this is so important to talk about, and it's taken me so long to, get to the point where I'm willing to recognize it and talk about it. But anyway, so if you're with me on this journey listening to the video, I guess you must be there or near there as well. And so here, lighted up at 12 hertz, in line with this. See, look at this big and all the green around it. So it looks like it not only comes into our waking consciousness, but at 12 hertz here, we're at low beta. We're on the very edge of low beta here. Okay, the entry point to low beta, and then it extends in the green, okay, which is the human resonance, and I'm going to talk about this in a second. And we've got this alertness here at 20, so this is coming into our waking reality, okay, like where it hits the news or something. And I say that because masses of us are critically thinking about it, and then look, we've got this high blue line. In the high, I would have to guess this is probably about mid to high 20s, okay? So very high beta brainwaves here. The blue, in my view, is a protective element. Blue is, it's calm, but it's also protective. It's kind of a cool, clear state. And you see this energy continues into the high gamma spiritual brainwaves, where we have another cool, clear line. And what these lines to me show is this is a line like human consciousness is connected, where we're all tuned in. Okay, it may not be in our waking consciousness, it may be in our unconsciousness. It really depends on what our choice is in life as a soul to express through the human body. Because, and I was talking with a friend about this, it was so great, today. And we were talking about those unconscious versus those who are conscious. And this is my friend Ralph, we were discussing this. And what I was saying is kind of like in my unvax and vax versus unvax video, where I talked about how we're two sides of the whole of humanity. Okay, so we're not getting rid of each other. Okay, sorry. We're all together in the big melting pot of humanity. So we are all stuck with each other. Okay, so this is an invitation, in my view, to figure out how to love each other in this situation, but how to love, protect, energetically transmute, physically deal with, and on and on and on. But I really focus on the energetic. And why did I do that? Because the energetic comes into the physical. If you can create in alignment with your divinity in the energetic, it absolutely comes into the physical, and I've seen it over and over and over and over and over again in my own personal life. Like, the physical world changes, okay, around you. It's just the most miraculous, amazing thing. But what these lines tell me here, okay, is that this is a human resonance chart. If we're looking at it as reflecting global human consciousness, and I do believe this chart has more than an influence of just the location of Russia. And why? It's because so many people around the world look at this chart, okay? And anyway, so basically, so we all end up having an influence. So the line in this blue line, okay, it's all of us. It's a line of collective consciousness participating in something, okay, and same here, and same here, and same here, and then we have the always present, green line at. You can't quite see it as well in how I've done the image, but at the 8 hertz, the natural frequency of the earth. But do you see how many lines there are on this chart? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? And that's a lot. Like, we're engaged at all levels of our being here. Alpha, natural earth frequency. 12, low beta, high beta, gamma. I mean, we're engaged here, and what happens when we're engaged? We see the bug, okay? Now, I'm going to call this a bug. It looks to me like, okay, let me just make it big for a second here. Okay, and when I do this, I can use my little hand. Okay, so see here, I see an eye, a nose. The white here is the skull, and then you have two red either horns or antenna, okay, that go up out of its head. So it does not look human to me. But there's also a human face here. Now here's the human face, okay? Now here's eye, nose, and then this white here is the human face. Now, this looks like a possession in the energy field, okay? Or it looks like this negative, it does not look positive. Okay, right now it looks like a devil face. This kind of non-human influence, okay? And then it's raised up slightly above the head of this more human-looking person, all right? But at any rate, there's a face with antenna or horns. Here's the body. But see how the body is in these pieces, okay? And then here's the weird legs. The legs have a kind of a, see how they go backwards and then forwards and then backwards? Okay, that is a strange shape. That is not how human legs work. They go backwards and forwards and backwards. Okay, so this is a bug-like, insect-like shape for the legs here. And if you look at it for too long, you can actually almost see a triangle type head, which is very insect-like type head. Stop. Okay, hold on. I just need to do some light work here. So I'm going to burn the violet flame in this moment and call in Archangel Michael, and now it's gone. So let's just invoke the presence of Archangel Michael, who brings a protective light to the energy, and let's invoke the violet flame, which immediately transmutes the energy as I speak it to a state of neutral, because I do not want to communicate or transmit energy here. I want to tell a story, and then you can take what you hear and see how it resonates for you and what it might mean for your life or your perception of the world, okay? So I will not do this, okay? Be the human who lets the bug transmit through them. No, not going to happen. And so see how you can claim your energetic sovereignty here? How do you do it? You just say no. You notice you notice the attempt. Okay, so the way I have you can have permissions for your energy field. Your energy field is electromagnetic, which means it's programmable. Okay, so because I have those permissions, all it can do is show up outside the field and make an offer, which I said no to. So you see how that works? Okay, and then I just brought in Michael to even clear it from outside the field. Because I, in my mind, asked him. Well, actually, as soon as I called him in, he just vanquished it. He vanquished the energy. Now, since Archangel Michael represents divine will, that was in alignment with divine will. You see how that works? And it's a kind of thing where it happens where when I see spiritual beings, it's so amazing. I see spiritual beings act, and I'm not asking them to, I just see it happen. And anyway, it's kind of an interesting thing. So now, if you don't know about Archangel Michael, or that doesn't resonate with you, then, or you have other spiritual beings you work with, it's just, he represents divine will, and that's who I work with, and that's who resonates and what resonates for me. So, I invite you to explore it if you'd like, and if you don't, no problem. But I want to give energy techniques, because I'm going to be talking about this energy. And if I present an issue, this is that whole thing about spiritual bypassing, right? If I'm going to call something out and shine the light on it, I also want to present a technique, a suggestion for dealing with it, okay? And I won't always have answers like that. But in this case, I do, because it relates directly to the type of energy work that I'm familiar with. So I will suggest it. And this is what I do here. I teach about energy and how to have greater control over your own embodiment of your own energy field as a living soul in a living human body. That's really the work that I do. That's really what it's about. And I'm using the Schumann resonance as a tool for teaching that. So that's my mission here. And it is a great tool for teaching that, it turns out. I'm blessed to have that. Now here, down here, okay, so here's the lower body, and then you get into the weird shaped legs here. And it's a slice of a bug, okay, because you see that there's energy going out to left here, but here it's a it's a line, it's a slice, like the energy just stops. Okay, maybe because we called him Michael. I'm sorry. And here's the sword here, the blue sword. I love that. All right, so this bug is tied into the matrix. You see to the left here, and you can see how it would go to the right here, right? You can see that, if not for having been cut off. So what does this say? That there's hope that this is going to be cut off from the matrix. The matrix meaning, let's just call the matrix our unconscious ways of interacting with our own self and with others outside of ourselves who are in living human bodies. And this, society that we live in a moment, right? Okay, so we see the bug, and could it be a mantis type bug? It could be, because it's got antennas, and it's got these weird legs, and it's got the potentially triangle head. All right, so there it is. Okay, now, this is what I wanted to show you. The line at 20 hertz significantly changes in two places. It changes right here, okay, because you see here, it's going along like a green line, and then suddenly, ba-boom, now it's black and green, okay? So it changes there, and then it changes also, where is it? Right here, okay, because now you see it's clear, it's black and green, oh, suddenly purple. Suddenly it's faded black with a lot of purple coming in. Now, here's the next thing I want to show you. I'm going to show you what happened at those two changes, because it was interesting. But first, I want to take you through this because it's so interesting. Okay, so here's the line at 20 hertz. Okay, so look at all of this here. It's so interesting. And to me, what it feels like is... It's like it's an image of the field, right, that we're engaged with, okay? And there's all of these shapes now. See how the shapes in the field, as we head into this green puffy clouds of energy around 20 hertz, look how the shapes become fascinating and complex. And so to me, what this is like is programming. Another way to think about it is, why did I say was? Our thoughts were, it happened in the past, was coming together, were coming together. And that's what happened here, okay? Now this is weird. I see like a little bug. Anyway, this little image here turns into a little bug in my mind with these long legs, like another insect type bug on the line at 20 hertz. So this must be where we first perceive it, okay? And I see faces here in the chart as well. Some of you I know can see this because you either comment to me or send me pictures of the faces that you see. So I know I'm not alone here in seeing this. So anyway, so there's this interesting, what this could also be is like, oh my gosh, we've been at this for months paying attention. And now suddenly we're having all these thoughts that are coming together. And it's like these vertical lines are coming through and helping us tie it together. Okay, because they especially go through the mid-beta, our complex thought. And then, bam, we come in and look, it's so awesome. Look, here's mostly green, vertical line. Here's a mostly green vertical line, but some black starts to come in, faded, but it's there. Now look, the vertical lines come in with black in them, and then we start to see black in the 20 hertz. They start to come in again with more black in the 20 hertz. Isn't that amazing? It's like the vertical line ties it together for us. And where does the vertical line emanate from? The vertical line emanates from way up here in our unconscious, not even our subconscious. So you see how the unconscious can be brought to light here. And in fact, not only did we apparently bring it to light, but now we're really super critically thinking about this. And I just wanted to show you, since I did this, this is the first point at 11 a.m., where the red resonance spiked up. Let me show you. Right here. Now this is the quality, okay? And here's the spike up. And where does it occur? Right at 11, okay? Between 10 and 12 here, it spikes straight up at 11, okay? And it goes to 21.2 hertz, 21 hertz, okay? Which is high. The peak has been about 25, where it's been peaking to a lot. But 21 is high, okay? It peaked to 37 recently, or 35, and I addressed that on my last video and talked about what that may have meant. So let's see here. So it spikes up, and at the same time, we get a shift here, because now suddenly, I colorized this a little bit. I saturated the colors so you could see, okay, that now that's coming in, and let's go to the next one here. So there's a clear shift, okay, between, look, clear shift in the energies there to there, okay? Pretty amazing, huh? And that is this line here, okay? Now, I'm going to show you the next shift, which occurred at, not this one, 1800 hours, okay? And I pointed out to you, but now I'm going to show you in detail. Now you see what was happening. It was like do, 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 do. It's like this Morse code of black lines and black squares or triangles, and white squares or triangles, and white and green squares or triangles. It was almost like a code, okay? Now it's at 20 hertz. So it's like do, 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 do. So it's like we're transmitting this to each other. And it's interesting because I got together with some people recently, and we were talking about the joy of getting together for a celebration. It was someone's birthday. And what my friend and I were talking about at this group was how important it is for us to overlap our energy fields as human beings. Okay, it's really, really important. And so all of you people, all of the people who are living in places right now where you're able to get together en masse and overlap your energy fields, we transmit energy non-physically to each other. We transmit information. And I really feel that physical presence with each other is really critical for this. It's key for it. And I think that's partly why it's so important for our own sanity, because this is a vital aspect of human life that's been taken away from us. That is not okay, because it's vital to our survival as human beings. This whole non-physical side of life, that we've been told doesn't exist, does exist. And we've agreed to deny its non-existence because it benefited whoever that was, okay? But that took away a key part of our humanity. I'm going to talk about that in a second when we talk more about the bug. Okay, but you can see the light here, the light purple, okay, that now is fully imbued. And to me, that's a very spiritual energy, but it's also like it's a part of that high gamma. So now we are combining not just our critical beta thinking, but we're combining spiritual insights. And you saw that line in the high gamma, right? You saw that line in the high beta, right? So now we're combining that, and it shifts the quality of the energy. Now the red resonance in the quality is still at 25 hertz, but look what happens when we make this shift. It's dramatic, okay? It spikes way up now to 25, and then look, we're just there, Okay, and now it's just like a straight line. So this was really critical. Now, what is the quality? Okay, in layman's terms, this is how I interpret the quality of the Schumann. It's a component of what makes up the resonance, the frequency, amplitude, and quality. Okay, but in layman's terms, this is my view of how to talk about what the quality is. It's like the higher the quality goes, the closer we are to the truth of who we are. And it's been a while since I talked about this, but I've given examples in my early videos on the Schumann. I give a lot of examples if you go back to my early videos about this. But if you think about it in terms of sound, here's how it would be. This would be a sonic example of a low resonance. Right. You can't hear the note. It's like there's a lot of dissonance. But let me see if I can do this, because I'm not really a good alto. I'm not a good bass. I'm more of an alto. Okay, now that note comes in clearer, right? It's a little easier for me to right? But if I go that would be an example of going from a low quality to a high quality, a distorted sound. Okay, still that is still in there. Okay, it's still in that distortion, but you can't hear it clearly until it fine tunes. Right? It's like the radios that have the dial, the AM, FM radios, and you're like you go from static to suddenly it just turns on. Suddenly someone's speaking, just like how that bug just turned off, right? In the image, it showed up and then bam, it's gone. Okay, because we changed the dial, and now it can't connect with us and we can't connect with it. Ta-da! It's a frequency war. No, I don't like using that word war. Because I just haven't figured out how exactly I want to talk about it, but it's really, I'd rather use the word parasite, right? Because we saw the bug face behind the human looking face. It's a parasitic energy, but it is, and the reason that I don't like to use the word war is because I don't think that having a warlike approach is how you win in this situation. I think the way you win is something along the lines of my Vax-Unvax video, where I talk about how to heal the rift. Because reclaiming our humanity is how we win. Removing the parasite is how we win. Okay? We don't win. You don't win if you have to chop off a part of yourself to survive, right? That's not winning, okay? Winning, but, winning means surviving in whole, intact, with your hopes and dreams, alive and able to be acted upon as a living soul in a human body, okay? That is possible. So, I think, because war puts two groups against each other. Okay, but because this parasite is so well hidden, okay, it hides itself in a human form. It hides itself in the non-physical, which we have been taught to ignore, which we have been taught to deny. It hides itself in evil, which we have been taught to deny, okay, which we have been taught not to look at, which we have been taught not to call out, okay, this spiritual bypassing. God, that's a great description, right, by Coyote Star. She's the first person I heard talk about it. But anyway, okay, so what I'm saying is that if the red represents a truth of who we are, from the Schumann resonance, from the standpoint of the resonance is potentially even emitting from humanity, okay? That's ultimately what I feel. But basically, the red being our deeper, denser emotional experiences, but also our passion, our shadow side, and even our shadow side when we've uncovered it, okay? And the forces of darkness, okay? So what is a high quality going to do for all of those things? it's going to reveal the shadow, okay? If we look at it long enough, if we decide to engage our light and shine light upon it. Hey, let's see, maybe it's if we decide to engage at 8 hertz, 12 hertz, 20 hertz, 25 to 28 hertz, 38 to 40 hertz. Okay, now that line was closer to 40 hertz. Oh my gosh, we actually did it. We decided to engage because there's lines all the way across the chart. And what happened? We saw evil. We saw, and in a space of sacred discharge imbued by the violet flame, I asked for these energies to be transmuted in alignment with divine will. Okay, but let's pray that prayer as human beings. And however you would say that, okay, in alignment with what resonates for you as being in alignment with the highest good. Okay, but dang, if we get together as a force praying these prayers, and this isn't just about sitting around doing nothing meditating, okay, or sitting around doing nothing praying. This is a different level of engagement at working with light, at working with prayer, at working with meditation, at working with energy work. Okay? Because when you do it this way, it comes into the physical. And some of us are going to be more engaged with the physical world. Okay? But hey, I've got my sun in Pisces in the 12th house. So it appears to be my mission to, using my Virgo talents of being able to actually figure out how to work the technology, being able to actually figure out how to use the charts, actually figure out how to work with social media, actually figure out how to put it all together, and get detail oriented about it. I figured out how to reveal this, and it's apparently a part of my life mission. So that's why I talk about it. And, I'm not a big guy that could join the military. I'm not apparently it wasn't in the cards for me to be in politics in this life. So this is what I have to do. And I know there's other people out there that have these skill sets where it's emphasized for them as well. And I hope you're listening to this if that's the case. Because we can work together. And, there have been many times where I'm doing energy work and I know I'm working with others from a higher perspective. Many times when I've called in to work with human beings at their higher self level who choose to be involved consciously or unconsciously in the work when it's kind of more at a planetary scale. I don't do that as much anymore. But, going back, several years, I was very involved in doing that. But even in the more recent years, there have been times where I've had the feeling that I am working with someone who might be physically engaged, okay, providing energetic support. So, because, here's the thing, okay, if you're in the military and you take out a bad guy, okay, they're still non-physical entities, and that's right here. Let me get the picture. Okay, now we're talking about the bug. They're still non-physical entities, okay, that are in the field that aren't going to get eliminated by your activities, and this also needs to be dealt with. If you're going to remove parasites from Earth, then we have to also address the energetic parasites. And it appears that is coming into our consciousness. And when it comes into our consciousness, look what happens here. Okay, like there's a big cloud of this green. And in my view, there's all this, and I saw celestial forces, but also galactic forces involved in this. And who are the galactic forces in my view? They are us. They are not separate from us. They are not saviors coming to help us. They are within us. Okay? So it's aspects of our own selves. When I say that, I just want to be clear because I'm so tired of sorry, boy, I'm a little like that, but I'm just laying it all out tonight. I'm tired of hearing about so-and-so ship is going to come do this and that thing. Okay, and I know someone, and here's the thing. I know that people who are very galactically focused do listen to me, and I'm with you guys, okay? I totally love it. I love the whole galactic energy. I love the feel of it and playing with it and being it. But there's an edge where there's also a spiritual bypassing there as well, because it's time for us to realize that if you are channeling so-and-so, okay, that the reason you can do that is because it's in you. You are a part of that greater soul. That's how energy works, okay? Unless you've been hacked, okay? So anyway, I don't want to go to that right now, because we're talking about having a high level of discernment. We're talking about mastery level work here, okay? About you have the discernment to know for yourself, your own God source, and that what you're engaging with is your own God source and your highest good, your own, source of your soul. So I'm talking to you at the level where you know those things, okay? Because we're not in kindergarten anymore. We're not playing around here. And if you're a beginner, I'm glad you're here, okay? Because these are great skills to learn and develop. So anyway, here it is. First, it's in the past to the left from our point of view, looking at the chart, and also time-wise in the past, it's engaged with the matrix. Then it's just cut off in the future. See that? Good news. So we are telling ourselves that it's going to end, right? This engagement with humanity of this invisible parasite. And the reason I don't like to use the word war to describe it is because because in the way that people talk about it, it's very left, right, yin, kind of yin yang, but left, right, good, bad, cleaving off of something that is within the circle of the yin yang. And I don't think that's what's going to happen. What I think is that our yin yang of humanity got invaded by an alien force of some sort, and that's the origination. Now, I think that also free will was invoked, or not invoked. Free will was, cancel, clear that. It was we were gifted it by the Creator, and what happened both then and now is that forces came in of darkness, what we would call darkness, to offer us temptations. I think that's real. Eve being offered a temptation by the snake. I think there is deep truth in that story. It's not just that we were invaded, it's also that we were offered temptations. But you see, there's so much trickery with the temptations that even those who created this game on Earth didn't realize. I don't know, did they realize how complex it would get? I'm told no. That they didn't realize it. Okay, so, and I'm not told no by my guides. I'm told no by someone who was involved. Okay, so let's see here. So you see how we continue to have this Morse code here, and then what happens? Pa-pa! All right, we realize about the bug, and then the energy again shifts, and we'll see on tomorrow's chart exactly what that looks like. Now, I wanted to show you something about the big Schumann chart. Let's go to here. First let's back up. We're going to go there, but I want to back up to 11 hours, which is when the first shift in consciousness happened at 20 hertz, okay, where we started pulling things together. Well, this green line came in right here. So let's trace the green lines back up here, and this is what you get. Okay, so here, okay, so I put a blue line here, and now I can't change it. But anyway, so the blue line indicates the top of the frequency where this came in. It came in very close to 0, as you can see here. All right, so let's see where this actually came in. So the blue line is the top. And it is 1 pixel wide. All right, now you can see here that we're looking at less than 2 hertz. Now, I have a really cool video where I talk about loosh, L-O-O-S-H, and the loosh, it's actual patents, and I talk about the patents and what those patents reveal and how it correlates to Schumann resonance. So I guess I could link that video below as well. I'll go link it, because if you haven't seen that, that is amazing stuff. I talk about what all that means and how it correlates with the Schumann resonance and the human being and the human energy system. But this is even below that, okay? Now, why is that? Because the force that comes in and changes our consciousness is not part of the parasitic force. It's not part of the alien force. It's not part of the forces of darkness tempting us. Nope. Because it's close to 0. And as I have mentioned in the past, it's my view that the spiritual energies are in 2 places on this chart, okay, which is my assertion. Okay, you won't hear it anywhere else unless people have listened to my video now, I guess, and started talking about it. But anyway, which is great. Please talk about the fact that you saw my video and share my video. If you do that, I really appreciate if you see something that I've done and then you start talking about it. If you could live link back to me or just mention my channel, because that's really cool. And that's why, and I try to do that. I think it's professional. I think, when I was a professional in corporate, I always did that stuff. And not only that, but it kind of builds community when you do that. And it, I don't know, I love collaborating like that. And it's kind of an invisible collaboration unless you reach out, which I'm happy to hear from you, which some people have done. So thank you very much for doing that. Okay, so we're at 2 hertz, 1 hertz, half of a hertz. Nope, it's not even from half of a hertz. This here, okay, now I couldn't, now we're talking about pixels here. I can only make the lines in 1 pixel. So this pixelated line here that represents 0.25, it's actually that not 0.25. This is, yeah, it is 0.5, not 0.25, 0.25, okay. It's actually just this line here, that's 0.25, okay. And then so between here and here is 0.12, starts about, that's 0.25. So 0.12, see, I can't get into it because it's inside this pixel, but basically this blue line starts just above 0.125 hertz, maybe 0.123, because this here is maybe 1.3 or 1.4. No, not 1 point. 0.13 or 0.14 hertz. That is where this is emanating, that close to 0. All right, so what I want to tell you is that it's emanating from your soul. Okay, it's emanating from the soul. Why? Because we're in the most deepest unconsciousness. That's also the connection with the soul. Gamma is where we're aware of the connection with the soul. 0 or close to 0 is where we're not aware, we're unconscious about our connection with the soul. Okay, it's balanced. And one of the laws of this universe and energy in this universe is a law of balance. All energy balances in this universe, or better said, is in a state of balancing. All right, isn't that incredibly cool? I really wanted to show you that and how it's actually coming from the divinity within us. It's coming from our own souls. Oh, good. I put a little cheat for myself up there, which I forgot to look at. Top of blue line is 0.125 hertz. Okay. This is delightful, isn't it? It's just absolutely incredible. Now, let me summarize these concepts with you. It takes a knowingness, right, of what something is to be able to call it by name. And I loved this picture of Little Red Riding Hood because we are showing ourselves the wolf, okay? But really, the wolf is a part of the human system, the human earth system, right? It's a natural part of the planet, right? The wolf, dog is derived from the wolf, who we have spent who knows how long partnering with dog, right? Dog is the most domesticated of all animals. But the reason that wolf came up, I actually can't exactly remember how it came to me in this moment. But what I realized is that it's like our hearts were pulsating or giving us the pulse for the red resonance, right? From the soul level, we're getting these insights. It's like we're finally seeing it. And then now mentally, that's why I put the red coming from her heart and the line at 20 hertz coming from her head, because that's the high beta. And now we're finally seeing it, okay? We're seeing the danger, the element of danger that's been in our society all along, that's been among us, and we didn't see it. It's like when Red Riding Hood, right? So Red Riding Hood is a fairy tale, okay? It's a folk story. It's part of our heritage. And these stories that are part of our heritage are incredibly important. And we're on the verge of losing our stories because of the bug, because of this hidden dark influence that's telling us, oh, you can't have that, okay? You can't have your culture. You can't have your history, for reasons I'm not going to talk about on this video. Right? But we are being told that, okay? We are being told that across Western civilization. But our stories are important because they are the mythical stories and legends that come out of our collective consciousness and give us information about ourselves, give us the texture and flavor of our own emotions. And I would say to you, okay, why are people turning into zombies? Because if we don't have our stories, we can't have the emotional range. That this is what has occurred to me, like a strike of lightning bolt. Okay, that our stories, okay, our history, our culture, our cultural stories that we tell and share are a deep part of our human experience, and that inform our human experience. Told the same stories, told generation after generation. Okay, and in Western civilization, in Western culture, when we got the TV, okay, at first, television started telling us our stories, okay, and started putting it into music and videos that were on TV, okay. But what we lost, okay, what we lost was the telling of our stories person to person, okay, the presence of the storyteller in the lives of our communities. Okay. Oh my gosh, I just got so emotional because that is the role that is the role that I take on partly, okay, in doing this, because I'm not necessarily telling like stories of the Greek Olympiad or of Ahab in the whale, but I'm not necessarily telling but I do use the archetypes to interpret energy, and I feel so blessed to have learned about those and the importance of those, okay? So what I'm saying is that part of the reason we've become zombies is because we don't have that emotional depth, because we don't have the memory of our own culture. It's been taken away from us. It's being taken away from us. And now it's such an offense, that our stories are being turned into in movies, in in mass media. Our stories are being twisted and turned into things that they never were. And it's sacrilege to do that to human beings, to go into a culture and twist their stories around. It's terrible. It takes away a part of our humanity unless we refuse to participate. And who's doing that? It's this hidden influence, okay? And now we're finally seeing it. Why? Because our hearts told us something's wrong. That red, it came up from the depths, the red resonance, the deepest emotions. And we often see the red as representing the dark forces, or even representing evil, as was mentioned in Stacy Blue Ray's Twitter post. Okay, and yes, are we now? Does it reveal evil that was unconscious? Yes. Okay, it does. But it also reveals it from the depths of our passions, from the depths of the emotional context of who we are as humans, that we know that's missing. Okay, we know it's being taken from us, and we can say no. Why? Because we have the light within us. Okay, we are this light. Okay, we are this light. We carry it with us. Okay, both in the form of our inner child that is always alive within us, within the human energy field at the point of the soul connection, but it is also alive within us in our expression in the living world. And I can't remember what the circumstance was recently where I ran into this, where I was involved in something. What was it? It was such a shock. Oh, it wasn't me. It was somebody that I was speaking with, okay? It was such a shock because they were engaged in a big spiritual group, and that the people in that group appeared to be separating their work lives from their spiritual lives. In other words, okay, I'll go be spiritual like on Sunday when I go to church, or I'll go be spiritual when I'm volunteering for the homeless, or I'll go be spiritual when I'm doing whatever. But then when I'm in my work life, I'm just going to do my regular thing, like the spiritual's reserved, right, as a slice of life. But it's my view that that's not how it's meant to be, right? Look at the golden light lighting up home. Right? Our spiritual nature is a deep part of the imbuement of who we are. It's told in part through our stories, but it's also the living feeling of God within us, of the soul within us, this tangible, thick felt energy that emanates from within our heart. And it's our soul, our heart and soul. Okay, that is a living part of who we are. And no, the soul is not just a part of the matrix. That is, it's not that it's a misinterpretation. Here's the problem. Because we have denied, okay, it's just a piece of the bigger puzzle. Okay, so it's true and not true. Because we've denied the non-physical for so long, we've lost our words. We just haven't developed the words about what all this is. Because in part, the non-physical communication of energies is a matrix of a sort. We saw the beautiful patterns and codes, right? We now it's so big, but we see that. All right, hold on. I got to get it a little darker here. Okay, we see this around, all coming together in these beautiful patterns that end up forming into shapes and images, right? Like programming, but it's not necessarily it's transmissions, communications to ourselves in a non-physical, non-verbal language. Okay, and it's the language. It's the language between us and the soul. Okay, so when people refer to the soul as a matrix, they're referring to a part of what we are, but we are also the pure soul that is pure divinity that is alive within us. We are both of those things. And a lot of people think of the matrix as mental, and yes, it is. Okay, mental, but there's also this human energy. Okay, it's not in a straight line. It comes in patterns and codes and images and geometries, and it's beautiful, and it's an integral part of who we are. And I feel like as we enter this age of Aquarius, which is apparently already begun, but we're still like the old is just trying to hang on, but it's dropping away. Okay, and we're going to learn more and more about this. I think our experience of the non-physical is going to start to come into focus as something that is a natural part of our human lives that deserves our attention. And let me ask you something about the wolf here, and I want to just interpret the wolf energy for a second, but who do you think the wolf is going to go after? Because the wolf has a protective element as well. You think the wolf, if it was guarding its society, right? Because wolves are social animals. You think it's going to go after the girl first, or you think it's going to go after the insect? What's more of a threat to the wolf? Okay, what is the invading force? Okay, it's right here. So let's read about the wolf here. I'm going to just... The wolf as a spirit animal, and I linked the article below about this, it represents our animal nature, okay? Wolves are social animals. They represent actually peace, social standing, and acceptance, according to spirit-animals.com. And the message of the wolf is the barriers you have erected mentally, physically, emotionally, psychically are no longer necessary. Isn't that fascinating? I couldn't believe it when I saw that, because I knew what I was going to talk about. And I was like, oh my goodness. Now here's what I would say. A barrier is different than setting energy parameters. It's similar but different. Energy parameters are basically a barrier. Okay, but where it's different is that it's conscious, not unconscious. Okay, it's not like putting up a wall and saying nothing's going to come in at all. I'm not going to let anything in because, like, I'm going to completely deny the non-physical because I can't tell anything about it. Okay, because that's been taken from us, the knowledge of that. But we still have our human intuition about it. Okay, the wolf represents freedom. It represents standing your ground. It represents defending your boundaries. Okay, and to do this, you have to be conscious of what your boundaries are. Okay, the reason that you don't need the old barriers is because you have upgraded your approach to life in a conscious fashion. Okay, and Red Riding Hood, when that came to me, you know, when I saw the red resonance and the wolf, the story of the wolf and Red Riding Hood came to me, it's a story of hidden dangers, right? Because Red Riding Hood walks into the forest and she's naive, okay? She is an innocent, okay? And the wolf meets her, but this is a wolf embodying the energies of the dark forces, right? But also, you know, wolves eat small animals. Okay, so that's just a fact of life. It's a fact of nature. But this wily wolf thinks, well, I'm going to eat the grandma. When he talks to Red Riding and he finds out she's going to see her grandma, he says, well, I'm going to eat the kid and the grandma. And he goes and he eats the grandma. Now, this is a story with a happy ending, so just hold on with me. He eats the grandma, and when Red Riding Hood comes to bring her grandmother food, he eats the girl. But what happens? The hunter walks in. What is the hunter hunting? He's hunting the bad thing in the environment. Okay? And now who is the hunter? He is the healed and whole male. Okay? So this is the energy I talked about in my video on the that's what I'm going to make. On the lunar eclipse, November 19th. Okay, that video, which was actually pretty awesome. So I talked all about how the eclipse was about how we heal the tragedies surrounding children, and how a key component of that, to me, what the eclipse said was that a key component was the healed and whole male, in energy, fully embodying his own soul. And so who goes and notices that something seems to be amiss at the house from outside. He goes in, he notices there's a wolf, and he uses his axe, and he opens up the wolf, and out pop little Red Riding Hood, totally alive and healthy, and the grandmother. Why? Because they were hidden in darkness. That's the difference between innocence, denial, and naivete. Okay? Red Riding herself represents innocence. When she walks into the woods and she meets the wolf, she represents naivete. She doesn't recognize that energy, okay? Because for her, it's down here, right? It's a low quality. Why? Because the wolf is presenting himself as a good guy and tricking her, okay? Now, denial, okay? She walks in and she sees her grandmother now looks like an ugly, horrible monster. But she doesn't run away. She talks to the monster as if this is her grandmother, and that's denial. Okay? And so that's way up here. Now, the ugly grandma, now the grandmother ugly, right? Because it's a wolf pretending to be the grandmother. That's up here. And now it's been 28 hours or 30 hours or however long it's been since it happened. Now that I'm making the video. And finally we're like, oh my God, it's a wolf. Oh my God, it's an insect. It's hiding in the human form somehow. Okay, we don't know how that is yet. Okay, but I'm going to show you that eventually. Eventually it will be revealed. Right? Me and others. So, thank you for being with me here today. If you are here at the end of the video, I thank you so much. It's a joy to be here with you today. And let's return home. Let's return to that connection that we had of, fully embodying our soul, of passing along to each other our stories, of passing between each other the energies that are in our field that we mix non-verbally with other humans, of understanding the stories that we share in our culture, which explains about hidden dangers, which tell us the stories of who we are. And as we enter the new age, and we advance our human technology, right? Because, there's a lot of talk about advanced technology, but what we haven't talked about so much is advancing our human technology. Because as humans, we are pre-built with the ability to engage with the non-physical and to remember how to do that, because our cultures before us did this, right? Think of the Druids, right? Think of the shaman, okay? Think of all of us. All cultures came from tribes, okay? All cultures came from tribes. And we deserve to have our connectedness back with the truth of who we are and to rediscover that in new ways, right? In new, upgraded, and expanded ways as we manifest the truth of who we are in new ways in the new era. And discover our human technology to be able not just to understand the non-physical, but now to begin creating in a conscious way.